Good morning, everyone. I have been meaning to do this video for a while. I had to give you an update about my Lumen, and I want to talk about it because it's really important to just, keep the conversation going, because I've shared it before. I have signed up as an ambassador or affiliate, so I want to always be transparent as to what I like about it and what I think can be improved. But also, to be honest with you, this is like market research for me, because I am working on an app for women only that works with our hormones. So this data that I'm collecting from here is really, really keen, is really, really important. And also how to use a device like this, maybe together with my app and other apps. So the Lumen, if you don't know about, is a device that you will breathe into and measures your CO2 levels. Higher CO2 means you're burning more carbohydrates, otherwise you're burning less, and you're basically in fat burning. Now, as individuals, we have two energy sources. As humans, we have two energy sources, which are mainly our survival mechanism. It's your carbohydrate burning, which is basically your meals, you're burning your meals, and fat burn, which is basically when you're not eating, you're into a fasting state, and now you're burning energy from fat. So this is where the whole concept of ketogenic diet comes from, and this is what a lot of ketogenic people that like ketogenic diets would use this to track with maybe a keto mojo or something. But I am not a big proponent of ketogenic per se, mostly because I believe, well, first of all, I reversed type 2 diabetes with a high carb, low fat diet, and I really believe that worked for me, works for a lot of people. The data and the science is actually quite solid around it. And yes, we can actually do it with a ketogenic diet, but the ketogenic diet removes the carbs, which means you actually end up having, your insulin is not training to be welcomed by the cells. So insulin resistance is not tackled. It's just with removing the carbohydrates, or I should say the starches, because the thing is, carbs are also vegetable, leafy greens, and in a ketogenic diet they do exist in the universe. It's just that they don't have such a big starch component, so they don't raise glucose as much. So when it comes to the Lumen, I think it's a great device. I really enjoy picking up on the data that it's giving me, but I am not following it like with all the advice that it gives, because the way that it suggests meal is, if you are burning already carbs, then it will tell you to, if you're waking up in a carb burning state, from 3 points to 5, basically, it will tell you to have a low carb diet. And I don't necessarily agree with that, because it doesn't take into consideration stress levels, sleep patterns, hormones, and so on. So I have adjusted it regarding, with the awareness and knowledge that I have about hormones, especially, and what I'm going through, which is not easily, trackable in the app. But when you get the device, which is not cheap, so if you get it, you really want to use it, and it's not something that's for everyone. It comes with an app, it's free, so there's no membership, and you just use it. What I love about this is that you basically can see what your body's doing. I've noticed, for example, sometimes, I would have a meal at 3 p.m. and that's my last meal. And even though I'm fasting for like 17, 18 hours, I wake up still in carb burn. And that is lots to do with stress. Actually, I've had, when I started losing the Lumen, I was actually not very stressed. I was in a really good place. And I was basically waking up in fat burn and going to sleep in fat burn, and very easily manageable. And then something happened. There was something that happened that kind of was very emotional, and since then I've actually, although I'm managing my stress and my emotions in a very logical way, with like lots of self-care, making sure I work out, making sure I walk in nature, making sure I meditate, but then emotional stress is still there. Like, we physiologically, we can respond to something even if we are controlling it logically. So I have noticed that I actually haven't been able to really wake up in a fat burn as often. In fact, for 2 weeks I was pretty much in carb all the time, carb burning, even when I wasn't eating, which indicated that my body was just stressed. My cortisol level was higher, and so on. I don't beat myself up for it, and I think people need to understand this. It doesn't mean that you're not losing, weight and being fit and being healthy if you're burning carbs, by the way. So you're still using, you're actually using your if you're not eating, you're not using food straight away, because after a while you're done with food, then you're still burning from another source, so like your glycogen stores. So it's, you're not gonna put on weight, okay? But I have to say this: if you're chronically stressed, then yes, that can actually mean that you're going to put on weight instead of losing it, even if you're eating less. So I don't want you to eat less. I want you to actually eat well, eat more, on a balanced diet, enjoy your food, try to have practices around it, managing your stress, and this can indicate what your body's doing. One thing you'll notice, for example, after a workout, you are going to burn more carbs because your body's using glycogen stores. But at the same time, after an hour or two, you'll see that you're going to move to fat burn, and much more with obviously things like weight training, than carbs, than cardio. So you can notice how your body is responding. And one thing is, our bodies are different, and I like that this can actually tell you what to do. But I've noticed in the chat, in the forum that Lumen provides, that people are actually quite stressed about not being able to shift out of carb burning, and some of them requested a refund because this doesn't work. I am not gonna lie, I thought about it too. I'm like, is this actually working, when I had those 2 weeks? But then I went back into more fat burn. So it's definitely how our physiology is reacting. And the problem is that the Lumen, although it can link to other apps, it's not really tracking everything that's happening in our life. And we have to understand that stress and emotions really, really affect our health. There is nothing we can do about it. The way that our metabolic health, in this case, is affected by our stress levels. So do not beat yourself up on it. But as a device, I really, really like it. I have a discount code. It will give you 20% off. And if you're someone that likes to collect data, and with the Lumen, maybe you can use a CGM for a little period of time and compare. Or you like to prick your finger in the morning and see what your glucose looks like, go for blood work every 3 months. Like, those things are doable, and the more data points you have, the more you can understand what's happening. Equally though, and although I'm actually a fan of biohacking, I also don't want us to become obsessed, because sometimes this can actually bring more stress. And so if you're someone that stresses around what's happening with your body, maybe this is not a good idea. If you're someone that is in control of what's happening, like you are actually quite comfortable with the way you eat, you are comfortable with your body, you're good where you are at, just want to optimize and understand what's happening and actually optimize if you want to, this is something that you can do. But I wouldn't put it out there as a must-have, and although I'm an ambassador for them, I like it, I really like it. But I'm in a place where, for me, data is really important for the research that I'm doing, for the app that I'm creating, trying to work with my clients who are, we are working with hormones. So although this tells you where you are in your cycle because you input the data for that, it doesn't necessarily understand the shifts of hormones and what you need to do. So it would advise me to have low carbs in my luteal phase and high carbs, for example, in my follicular phase, when actually my follicular phase would demand less starches because estrogen doesn't like so much glucose, and my luteal phase, which is when I want progesterone to rise so that I can get my cycle, my period starting, then that's what I want to have it. So I don't, progesterone doesn't like low glucose, so a high keto wouldn't work. So it doesn't do that for you. This is why I can use it with the knowledge. I can help my clients who bought it and like it to work with it because of the knowledge that we have around it. But it's not, if you don't know, you're gonna freak out and really stress, and that I don't want for people. We already have so much stress around food, diet, and it's just overwhelming as it is. So I don't want that to become another stressor. So if you want to talk about the Lumen and ask me questions, even if you're interested in buying it and want to talk to me about how to use it, or if you have bought it and you're struggling with it, get in touch. I'm so happy to support, especially if you're a woman, because we can work with your hormones. But yeah, make sure that this little device does not become a stressor, because if it is, maybe put it away. All right, guys, I hope you have a great day. I'm going to share my pictures from the data points that I was talking about, the high carb that I was burning, even if I wasn't having food and I was in a very long fasting state, to show you that, it's happening even if I'm pretty aware and I'm eating in a certain way that should be conducive to a more fat burn. If it doesn't happen, there are other reasons. Bye.